Welcome. My name is Guy Gaylor, and this is an overview on how to better understand information or how to keep from getting fooled by incomplete information. Every day, we are flooded by various bits of information. This information is often slanted to help sell a product, vote for a politician, or scare you into watching a news show. In this video, I am going to cover 3 broad examples of misleading information. In each case, we will go through the main root causes to better understand and avoid drawing misleading conclusions. After seeing these examples, you will be able to understand how the information could be distorted and how to look a little further to get a better perspective. Additionally, we can get our media sources to improve their quality of the information. Media is a reflection of us. The more people that care and demand more complete information, the more complete information we will get. Instead of jumping right into the deep end of the pool, like death, the first example starts on the shallow side. Hollywood box office results. Apparently, it appears that movies are just getting better and better. After all, we keep hearing about how the latest movie just broke some box office record. This is even true if the movie is not well received by critics or, more importantly, the fans. In this example, we are getting a misleading comparison. For example, Batman Dark Knight broke the opening box office records, bringing in $158 million. Why is it misleading? Here are some important details that are missing. Inflation. Each year, the average ticket price goes up. If all things were equal, this would bias the results towards newer movies. After all, Gone with the Wind had a ticket price of 23 cents. Using that ticket price, Batman would have only grossed a little over $5 million. Number of theaters. Batman also set a record for opening in the most theaters, 4,366. Once again, if all things were equal, opening in more theaters would bias the results. The Godfather opened in only 6 theaters. Population growth. When Gone with the Wind came out, which was also the same year Batman the cartoon came out, the United States had 130 million people. Today, we have a little over 300 million people. There are many more factors that also bias the results, sometimes against new movies. For example, Gone with the Wind had less competing media, and the experience was more novel. For taking a simple data point like top opening movie, we can see that it is not so simple to get the correct results. We can also see that the current method biases new movies, which is what the studios are trying to promote by bandwagoning us into seeing their latest flick. Let's now shift gears into something more serious. In the United States, someone is murdered every 28 minutes. This is based on 2005 data from the CDC. In that same year, alcohol-related motor accidents killed someone every 31 minutes and injured someone every 2 minutes. Although there is nothing wrong with presenting the data in this way, since it is much better than just having raw death numbers, yet the population size does distort it. For example, a death occurs every 30 minutes is much worse for a city of 100,000 people than a country of 300 million. One would represent 17% of the population, while the other 0.01%. The loss of life is tragic. As a large society, we have to make difficult decisions based on complicated sets of values within the bounds of limited resources. If we wanted to look at these numbers again, it would be better to frame them with some other numbers for comparison. For example, we'd probably want to know how many people are actually born. How often do people die? What are some of the other leading causes of death? By having these things in place and adding numbers to them, we can get a perspective. For example, if we took everything in a 30-minute block, we have 240 babies born. We have 141 people die. We have 38 die from heart disease, 32 from cancer, 8 from strokes, 7 from accidents, 1 dies from a homicide, and 1 dies from a motor-related alcohol accident. By comparing this data with other similar data, we can put it all into some sort of context. We also would want to see things broken down by age groups along with proposed costs for prevention. For example, people 65 or older reflect 73% of all the deaths. Does that change our priorities? Is a disease that strikes infants more important than one that strikes a much larger number of seniors? These are all good debate points to have with solid data. To recap this example, it is important to understand that large populations create many things that can occur frequently, even if the odds are rather low. For example, every month lightning kills 2 people. Additionally, it is important to have context to the data for comparison. For example, someone dies every month because of a dog attack. However, 18 people die per month because of horse accidents. It is common for this type of distortion to be used to grab your attention. Mysterious flu is killing someone every day. Tune in at 6 to see if you are next. The final example deals with something much more personal. Think about our current politicians. Is your blood pressure rising? Does any one of them make your blood boil? Do you get negative feelings when you hear someone called a liberal or a conservative? Maybe you have no use for any politician, regardless of the party. Maybe you think one of them is a great person, making great decisions to help move this country forward. If any of these things sound true, they also represent biases that you have. Based on our own experiences and upbringing, we have developed a large number of biases. These biases may even be correct. However, it impairs our ability to evaluate information. We tend to hear what we want to hear. We also tend to listen to news or watch shows that also play strongly to that bias. It is not unusual for 2 people to read the same article or watch the same show and come away with different impressions. For example, based on 2005 data, in the United States, the top 10% pay 70% of the income taxes. One might see this and think that the top 10% is being unfairly taxed and paying too much of the tax burden, while another person might see this as further proof that the rich make way too much money and should be taxed even more. And some might see this as a little of both. As another example of a bias, you may dismiss a good idea because it came from someone you dislike. Biases are a broad field. Whole studies are focused on our biases and how the brain accepts ideas and often selectively processes information. As a good general rule, we just need to think critically about information. We need to look for views that are counter to ours to help validate our positions. Watch out for extreme counter views, which might bias our position even more. Unfortunately, we are often presented with 2 extreme views, which makes for a more Jerry Springer type debate, which is really lowbrow entertainment in debate disguise. In summary, we covered 3 broad examples on how information can be distorted. In the first example, we covered how missing information like population growth, number of theaters, and inflation distort box office results. This same approach could be related to any record-breaking claim, like the recent record-breaking deficit. With inflation and a bigger economy, is it really record-breaking? In the second example, we covered perception problems with large populations of data. Without context, it is hard to understand the actual impact. Using this approach, we can think about the actual risk of salmonella, airbags, or mad cow disease. Are we giving these topics too much attention or not enough? In the final example, we talk about our own biases. We all have biases. By identifying them, we can minimize their influences. Are we rejecting ideas or embracing ideas without critical thinking? This concludes this overview. I've enjoyed putting it together and plan to present more specific examples in the future. I would appreciate any feedback or ideas. Until next time, please help make the world a better place by thinking critically.